evening. Welcome to MyTV's Doco Night. I'm Stanley Simpson. 2 months ago, Chief Justice David Ashton Lewis and Senior Barrister Janet Mason handed over the final report of the Commission of Inquiry, established last October to examine the appointment of Barbara Mali as Commissioner of the Fiji Independent Commission Against Corruption. They were tasked by the government to determine whether the process was conducted with integrity, fairness, and transparency. And the inquiry also investigated alleged political interference and improper influence. Mali assumed office on 5th September 2024, only to be arrested hours later by the acting FICAC Deputy Commissioner, Francis Polewai. The resulting report, delivered on May 1st, implicated 11 individuals in what it described as a politically charged appointment. One of those named was Fiji's Attorney-General Graham Leung. Leung was subsequently dismissed by Prime Minister Sitiveni Rabuka via a Viber message on May 30th, just 11 months into the role. He was told that his position had become untenable. On Tuesday this week in Suva, Mr. Leung spoke to members of the press and addressed some of the allegations made against him in the inquiry, as he awaited the official release of the report. Later that afternoon, the Prime Minister released a redacted version of the report. After his press conference, I asked Mr. Leung to share his account with us and his response to what he calls a travesty of justice after extracts of the report were leaked before the official release. I also asked him about the impact on the Commission's findings on governance and public confidence in Fiji. Thank you, Mr. Graham Leung, former Attorney General of Fiji. Let's start with the process in the formation of the Commission of Inquiry. Were you part of that process? And can you explain when did you first hear about it and your initial thoughts about it?
Well, I think from memory, the Prime Minister had decided that it would be prudent to have a commission, and that was probably the start of the commission.
Who appointed the commissioners?
I believe the name had come from the fourth floor, which is the office of the Prime Minister.
So the terminus of reference was pretty clear. It was...
From memory, yes. It was essentially about, and I'm paraphrasing, about the integrity of the process that led to the appointment of Ms. Mali. In other words, it was a review, as I saw it, of whether Section 5 of the Fiji Independent Commission Against Corruption Act of 2007 was followed. That essentially, when stripped of all the verbiage, that essentially was what the COI was mandated to look into.
Because as the proceedings was underway, we started to hear some comments, and correct me if I'm wrong, some was even from your office, but also from some of in the legal fraternity, that the COI was exceeding its TOR.
Stanley, that was actually a view that was expressed in many quarters. The view was, given the evidence that was emerging in public, given the length of time that it was taking, given the number of witnesses that were being called and the kind of questions they were being asked, yes, there was a view that the Commission had strayed from the boundaries of its terms of reference. And of course, if you talk to different people, you will get different answers. And of course, the Commission will say, and they're entitled to say it, and they would say it, wouldn't they? No, we stuck to our terms of reference. But yes, there was a growing body of opinion out there in the community. Hey, what's going on? This is about the appointment of Mali, and 5 months later, you're still having an inquiry into that narrow question?
It became about hunting the crocodiles.
Well, you could say that. That didn't come from me. But at one point, I think David Ashton Lewis told a radio station, I think in the Gold Coast, that he was asked to go find the crocodiles. And I don't know whether he's found the crocodiles. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't.
Well, I mean, if you speak to, I'm sure he would say that those involved or implicated would have issue about the commission going beyond its terms of reference because they were the crocodiles.
Well, to be honest, Stan, I don't know who the crocodiles are. Of course, the commissioner was using a metaphor or figure of speech. With 11 named persons, were they the crocodiles? And was the crocodile found? I think your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, let's go to the findings. You obviously, have you put a state, you haven't officially received the copy of the report?
No, I haven't, Stanley, because it's now 8 weeks, and at this rate, Christmas will be upon us, and we still haven't received the official report. And this is the 1st of July. Remember, I think we know this from the record. His Excellency the President, the Prime Minister, received it on or about the 1st of May, and today is the 1st of July, and it's 8 weeks.
When and how did you hear the initial word that you was one of those implicated in the report?
I think it started slipping out of various media posts. I can't remember whether it was Grubsheet or Rajendra Chaudhary or Alex Ford, but there have been a number of commentators and experts, so-called, on social media, making pronouncements, calling out names, engaging in various kinds of speculation as to who's in trouble, why they're in trouble, and so on. And in all that noise, I think I came across certainly some allegation or innuendo, or call it tattle, call it what you will, that somehow I had betrayed, if I can put it that way, the oath of my office to uphold justice and the rule of law, and to abide by the laws of this country. And yeah, and so we reached this stage today where the former Attorney General has findings in relation to him, allegations that he may have conducted himself in a way that broke the country's laws. Now, on any reckoning, I think the allegation, to say it is serious is an understatement.
Okay, let's go through some of their findings.
Okay.
Abuse of office. You told the acting Chief Justice to pause Bob Ramal's appointment because she was under a live FICAC investigation. The same day or the next day, a letter from the Electoral Commission that dismissed the complaint as vexatious. You reversed your advice and told the CJ to proceed. According to COI, changing tack despite knowing of the investigation amounted to using your office as an arbitrary way that was prejudicial to FICAC's work.
Look, I categorically reject the suggestion that what I did at the time broke any laws. That has always been my consistent position. You know, with the benefit of hindsight, would I have done things differently? Possibly. But it is what it is. That ship has sailed. I acted in good conscience and good faith. The decisions have been made, and that is it.
So August 28th,
yes,
the JSC sent you the recommendation of Bob Ramal.
On or about that date.
On or about that date. You spoke to the Chief Justice a few days later to say you got a complaint from Alex Ford. How did you get that complaint?
No, the complaint of Alex Ford didn't come to me from memory. I don't think Alex Ford complained to me.
Okay.
I'm not sure who Alex Ford complained to.
So why did you tell the Chief Justice to pause?
Because I at some point I became aware that there were questions around Mali, and I wasn't sure where those complaints had reached in terms of an investigation. A lot was happening at the time, so I don't want to mislead you.
Sure. But you did say, hold on,
Yeah,
let's check this.
Said, look, let's pause. I need to satisfy myself that it's okay to proceed, kind of. Yeah,
Right.
that's correct.
And then that you knew that it was coming from a social media commentator in Alex Forward by then.
I kind of got that impression, yes.
Okay. Then you got the letter from the electoral commissioners who, Nalini Singh.
You know, I believe at the time, I think it was Dr. Atu Emerson Bain who sent me an email, and that email had an attachment, which is the communication signed by the commissioners addressed to the JSC. Yeah. I don't think I was in the primary document as a CC'd copy, but I think she made it known to me. Look, AG, we've, you know, I'm paraphrasing. We've just sent this off to the JSC. I think you should look at it. That was kind of the context. And then when I saw it, this was what made me pause. No, what made me pause was my knowledge that there was a complaint/investigation. But when I saw Dr. Atu Emerson Bain's letter signed by Nalini and the others, whose name I cannot recall, I read it. It made sense, and it spoke of Mali's integrity. It spoke of the commission's sense that Alex Forward had been bullying, words to that effect, Mali. So when I read that, I then had a different perspective. I had a sense that, okay, there's balance. On the one hand, there's this complaint. I don't know how serious it is. It may have been serious, possibly. And then I had, in juxtaposition, in comparison to that, I had this.
So you weighed them.
I kind of, you know, I made a mental note, and I kind of mentally weighed them. You've got the commissioners. They're people of standing in our society. You know, you don't get a PhD from Oxford for nothing. You don't become a senator if people don't think you add value to the parliamentary discussions. And then I basically made up my mind, well, look, I don't really have a leg to stand on. I better send the recommendation back because they're waiting for it. So I sent it back. I signed it. I dated it.
And as you've mentioned, really you have no power. You're just consulted on the appointment.
You can read Section 5. That's what Section 5 says. The JSC is by law required to consult the AG, which they did. And I was consulted. And I think 3 or 4 days after the 28th.
Yeah. So after that, you told them, proceed, I have no further reservations.
No, there wasn't a discussion.
Okay.
I just signed, which is the document I showed the press conference.
Okay.
And then my secretary would have sent it back under cover of a letter.
Basically signing, say you've received it and you... What does the letter say? What does your signature mean there? You're okay with it?
The signature means I have no objection, basically. But as I mentioned in the press conference, it wasn't a ringing endorsement. I didn't put, for example, I wholeheartedly concur, or having reviewed the unanimous recommendation of the JSC, I fully endorse it. I mean, I didn't, there was a box there for me to put comments. It's a standard box. That if I wished to put a comment, I could have, but I didn't. I just signed it and I dated it. It was the day and date that it came across my desk.
Okay. You then the appointment, the recommendation had gone, and then when were you informed that there was a FICAC investigation against Barbara Malimali?
I can't remember. So much has happened in that period.
But it came to you, and by the time
Because
you felt what was your thinking when you, now you have to weigh three things, that there's an investigation and there's a JSC appointment, and you felt the JSC appointment was strong and had to proceed?
No, I don't think it was that kind of dichotomy, Stanley. I just received this piece of paper from the JSC. It already had Malimali's name recommended on the piece of paper. It had a box which had typed in from the JSC consultant.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Now I want to go further down the line,
Yeah.
when it was closer, when they were just about to, Barbara to take her appointment.
Yeah, that was I think was the 5th of
November?
September, I think.
Okay.
5th of September.
And that's when, did any letter or correspondence come to you saying she was under investigation?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Not directly to me, not to my knowledge. I could be mistaken, but this is almost a year ago now.
So, and then all the, the revelations started coming out about what happened in Tuvalu, that she was disbarred. You found all that out in the media?
I found that out maybe about a month ago, or just it started coming out in the media after the 1st of May or around that time. Yeah, but certainly very, very late in the day. I found out pretty much like everybody else from the newspapers and social media about things that were allegedly going on many, many years ago in Tuvalu.
Okay. So that situation eventually led to Barbara taking up the appointment?
Yeah, well, remember, sorry.
Yeah, and being arrested.
Correct.
Yeah. Did you take any action at that time, or you just stepped back and watched what happened? What happened at that moment? Because people are...
Well, I mean, there was no action for the Attorney General to take because, one, the Judicial Services Commission, under the law, is not subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority. And similar language relates to FICAC. FICAC also is not subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority. But if you ask my reaction, yes, of course I was shocked like everybody else. Imagine you turn up for work, and on the first day you turn up for work, somebody who applied for the same job as you tries to have you arrested. Nobody's come across that. That's unprecedented. So, I was sitting in Parliament that day and I was shocked. Wouldn't you?
You did give a press conference.
Yes, I think, if not the same day, later.
Yeah. You stated that the process was followed.
Yes,
can you recollect what the...
I can't remember what I actually said because I don't have the press statement here in front of me. And that was September last year. But, I basically...
In essence, that was the position?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
That...
Yeah, as far as I was concerned.
All right. So, there's all these other charges being thrown, perverting, obstructing the course of justice, because you pressed ahead with the appointment. But as you've mentioned from your position, it was a JSC matter.
Yeah.
You were only consulted on
Correct.
that. Okay. Then there's also this talk of your conspiracy to obstruct or pervert the course of justice, in which you are in a group with Solicitor General, Deputy Prime Minister Kamikamiza, and Justice Minister Turanga, that your combined conduct could amount to a conspiracy aimed at blocking or derailing the FICAC probe. Did you discuss with any of these people mentioned that you're now grouped with about the appointment of Barbara Malimali?
Absolutely not. I mean, the idea of me being party to a criminal conspiracy to pervert the course of justice.
You didn't talk to Mr. Kamikamiza?
No.
You didn't talk to Siromi?
No.
To Mr. Green?
No.
Did you even discuss it with the Prime Minister?
No, never. Absolutely not.
So the only time that you ever had anything to say about it was through the JSC and with the Chief Justice?
Not through the JSC, through the person of the Chief Justice, the acting Chief Justice, yes. I think he was still acting then, yes.
Right. So no to any conspiracy to obstruct or pervert the course of justice?
I mean, for those that know me and my adherence to the law, and my whole career has been built on the law, I mean, the suggestion of a conspiracy would be laughable if it wasn't so serious. It is such a big jump to extrapolate that conclusion from those facts. But that's one of the findings. So I categorically reject the
which you consider as hearsay.
It's not even hearsay. It's just a flimsy and a reckless attempt.
Interpretation?
Well, that's the commissioner's view. That's not my view. But as I said, Stanley, I categorically reject that.
You say you don't recall, but this was another one that they said that they, and I admit I have to check it again. They're saying that you said in your affidavit you were unaware of the FICAC investigation.
I don't think that was my evidence before the commission.
Okay. Ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I may have been aware of it, but I wasn't familiar with the details.
And you're not sure whether that... by the time when Barbara was appointed by the JSC, then you found out later that the FICAC had an investigation ongoing.
I can't remember at what point that I became aware and the extent of my knowledge.
Okay. So that didn't factor into any of the other... Because that is one thing that they'll try and look at, I would assume, the timing and the knowledge of when you knew what you knew.
You know, as I said in the press conference, I had a busy portfolio. A lot of things happen in my office on a daily basis. It's just not this. There's a lot of other things that are happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that they're going on about is that you knew of FICAC investigations were about to search government offices ready to charge Mali, yet still advised the Chief Justice to move ahead with her appointment. But as you said, that was way before.
No, it's not my job to advise the Chief Justice. I was simply consulted under Section 5 of the FICAC Act. So I don't...
So this attempt
advise,
is all over...
Yeah, I don't advise the Chief Justice. Yeah. It's not my job to advise the Chief Justice.
Okay. So... In choosing between Alex Forwood, can I ask this again? In choosing and Dr. Atubain, you went on the character and the substantiveness of the person.
I went on my personal knowledge and experience of who I was dealing with. You know, Dr. Bain was a former Labour senator in Parliament. You know, I remember some of her parliamentary speeches at the time. She's a person of learning and stature. I've always respected her views. I found her to be measured and considered, and objective, the qualities you would expect of people in senior positions. I've never met Miss Forward. I don't know Miss Forward. She's just a name in social media.
So let's move on now to when the report came out. You were in Hong Kong.
Correct.
When you got the Viber message.
Yes.
It simply said?
Words to the effect that you're dismissed with immediate effect. I think the Prime Minister even may have mentioned the provision or part of the Constitution that he was relying on. And basically, as I said, I don't have it in front of me right now. He basically said, look, finish what you're doing and come back.
That was it?
Yeah, maybe 3 lines.
And I remember messaging you at the time.
When, did you?
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember.
And you said that you accepted.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Of course.
You had no further comment, but that you accepted the result.
Correct.
But did you feel get hard done by?
You know, my feeling...
There was no evidence that you know, in front of you?
How would you feel if you were in my position? Look, things have happened. I said it then and I'll say it again. The Prime Minister exercised a constitutional prerogative. And in as much as he felt, obviously, that I could no longer command his confidence, I accepted his direction, and that was it.
The COI has made a big deal about your advice, they use the word advice, to the Chief Justice to pause the controversial appointment, then you later withdrew the advice. In other words, you've stated in that in your statement today that it has gone against some of the basic decency and fundamentals, and it has been weaponized. Can you revert to what you said in that statement?
Said in what statement, Stanley?
The statement you made today.
Yeah, no. What I meant was, look, you've got these 11 people implicated, and they've been crucified in various ways to varying degrees on social media. But they have not been afforded a chance to share their side of the story. And I'm uncomfortable with this idea that we, as a country, we are spying on one another, or we are finding people guilty, and we're not respecting the presumption of innocence. So, as I said, we can't be building a nation based on rumor and witch hunting. You know, there are processes to finding people guilty.
During the commission inquiry itself, were these questions raised to you by the commissioner and the legal counsel assisting the commissioner?
Which questions?
About your correspondence with the Chief Justice that eventually came out in the report to implicate you.
There were many questions. I can't remember. I think I was in the witness box for maybe 2 hours.
Did you feel that they were going to head this way in the report?
Oh, okay. No. Yeah. So when the finding came out, I was like, to put it mildly, I was surprised. In fact, I think my lawyer reminded me that, hey, the commissioner actually congratulated you at the end of your evidence and thanked you for being candid, and for, being of assistance to the commission. So yes, I would have to say I was surprised with the finding against me.
So eventually, selective leaks started to come out through the social media,
yes.
and the draft findings.
Yeah.
Your name started to appear.
Yes.
How damaging was that?
Well, obviously it's damaging. I mean,
you lost your job.
I lost my job. How more damaging can it get when you're the country's Attorney General and you're accused of committing a crime? I mean, of course.
You're supposed to be, as the Attorney General, have a lot of power. Did you feel a bit powerless in that moment on how to respond? Did you not? Why didn't you call the Prime Minister or talk to someone to address it before he made the decision?
Well, he'd obviously made the decision already. It was a fait accompli. So yes, of course I felt powerless, but I knew the die had been cast, and there's no point in banging against a brick wall. It would have just been very stressful, and the bleeding, the hemorrhaging would have continued. But by accepting it on the day, despite the circumstances, it's given me peace of mind because I know I've done nothing wrong. But if I'd strung it along and people were saying, well, why didn't you take him to court, take the government to court? I just want closure.
Want to clear your name?
Yeah, well, that's why I call this press conference, so the people of Fiji, those that know me, those that don't, they get to see another side. They get to hear me raw, so to speak, telling my side of the story.
Another area we kind of hemorrhaged on with this is the funding, which seemed to, basically by estimates, the things we're hearing, we haven't got it confirmed, has been around $2 million. Did you feel the country got its value for money from the report?
Well, it depends who you talk to. I mean, the value for money argument. 600-page report and 11 senior politicians and civil servants besmirched. Perhaps that money, some of that money could have been better spent building a new mortuary in Bunisea. I don't know. Historians will write this better.
Historians will look back. If you were to write it, what would be the lessons from this episode?
The lesson from this episode is when you appoint people to senior government positions, you have to be careful that you have a good mix of integrity, of maturity, of judgment, and experience. When you look back at this sorry episode, some of it may not have happened if wiser heads had been making more sound decisions earlier on. And I don't mean just the Commission of Inquiry. I mean, there were other things that led to the Commission of Inquiry, because this whole episode is a bit like an onion. You keep peeling, there are layers and layers underneath it.
It opened a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Because would you accept that it happened because a lot of you did not act when you should have?
Well, that's difficult to answer because it's a generalization, and I'm not sure what is at the basis of those generalizations. But it's always easy after an event to say, oh, we should have done that, or we should have done that. But there were so many moving pieces. There was the Judicial Services Commission, there was the Electoral Commission, there's the Supervisor of Elections Office, there was FICAC. And so there are different actors, different heads, different mindsets. Then you throw in a bit of paranoia, a bit of rumor, a bit of gossip. And then we've had this toxic cocktail that's come out at the end. And it's burnt so many bridges, and I think has the potential to destroy so many lives. So, I think we really need to study from this saga how not to do things in the future.
Thank you for sitting down with us, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
That was former Attorney-General Graham Leung. And this is an ongoing story with further twists and turns expected ahead. Stay tuned next week as we bring you a documentary series on Melanesians in Fiji, The Forgotten People, a riveting documentary series spotlighting the often overlooked Solomon Islander and Vanuatu descendants in Fiji, whose stories have largely remained untold. This series aims to highlight their voices and their struggles for recognition. The series aims to raise awareness of these communities and promote inclusivity and diversity in Fiji. Melanesians in Fiji, The Forgotten People, is a series about history, struggle, survival, and culture. Join us next week for that. Good night.